Good afternoon, YouTube. It's raining, so we must be working on the Mustang. I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so we're gonna work as much as we can, and the goal for this evening is to take out the remainder of the dash. And I'm not quite sure what all is involved with the rest of that, so I'm gonna do my best to document it as I go along, just like usual. I think I'm gonna need to take out the vents that are in the upper side of the dash, the ones closest to the windshield, probably drop the steering column or remove it completely. But yeah, let's get cracking. Whew. Okay, one big piece. Yep, and I see some bolts underneath the steering column, which I'm not sure if it's actually screwed in. Ah, because it's bolted in on the bottom. Looks to be 2 more 8mm bolts. Here comes the rain. Next up, you have this metal shroud underneath the steering column. 2 more 8mm bolts. Remove them. The whole thing drops right out. Underneath the steering column, I had 3 screws, but it looks like there's 4 slots. They are Phillips head screws. Remove them, and you should be able to move all the plastic freely. There are 2 more 8mm bolts on the left and right side of the steering wheel. You need to remove them. Once you do, you can then pull the airbag forward and then disconnect the plug. Obviously, you will have wanted to have your battery unplugged this whole time. If not, do so immediately. I'm not really great with connectors, so this could go one of 2 ways. Oh. Thought I had it. Okay, you just push down on this end, falls right out apparently. I wish I could use this in my Echo. This next part ought to be pretty funny. You see that Torx bit that's holding on the steering wheel? I want to take that out. But the only Torx bits I have are 3/8 drive. And I don't have a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter for my socket. So I'm going to try and break that steering wheel bolt loose with a 3/8 drive. Came right out. Okay, maybe things are finally starting to look up. Remember, before taking the steering wheel all the way out, to make sure that you can get it disconnected. Otherwise, you'll punch yourself in the face with it when you're trying to get it off. Maybe we need a bigger tool. Oh. This part of the steering wheel, we're okay. I thought it was my adjustable wrench. There. Just came loose. I'm glad I'm not reusing the steering wheel. A couple more steering wheel clips and it comes right out. Because race car. I'm guessing not how Ford intended for me to remove it, but it's out now. I really have to make a scrap pile and a save pile, but I don't have any more room for piles. I'm starting to question saving any of this. I don't know that much of it's worth anything. There's a couple more miscellaneous nuts and bolts right here in the front. I'm gonna go ahead and remove all the ones that I find, even the ones going up to the center console. So after you remove what you think is 10,000 bolts, you're about halfway done. The next thing you're probably wondering is, how do I remove the clock that's on top of the dash? It's quite simple. Hey y'all! Just like that. Pushing the tab, pull up the clock. Dash is starting to feel pretty loose now. There's still a few bolts on the passenger side that I'm having trouble getting out. They seem like they're just about to snap. So the instrument cluster bezel just kind of pulls out. Just be careful because the pins are old and they want to snap off. And it looks like the rest of the instrument cluster is held in by like 4 or 5 or 6 maybe tiny little Torx, but the outside of them are 7mm hex. But I don't have an extension for my 1/4 inch drive, so to get out those tiny little bolts I have to use a 3/8 drive with this tiny little reducer. If it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid. See what I mean? It's just the plastic cover. It's not even the gauges. Lucky for me, it looks like there's just 2 more 7mm hex bolts, or the equivalent Torx, if you want to use those, the bottom corners. I think once I remove them, I will be able to take out this assembly. I see 2 large clips in the back. Push down on the connectors and they come out. There you go. Low miles. 76,000. Right. I think it's time for a sanity check. The turn signals seem to be stuck on, but I guess I don't care. Maybe I'll pull the emergency brake up. Just for fun. So honestly, that's a great sign to me. It means that I don't need any of the gauges hooked up. I'm just personally worried that one of these connections is going to have some kind of special ground to it, which makes the car not work if it's not plugged in. But in all honesty, I'm probably making this a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I'm sure there's a lot of you watching at home who have done something like this before and went, why is he wasting his time? You don't have to worry about that. Just unplug it and go. But I'm going at it at my own rate, and will continue to do so. I see 2 large nuts underneath the steering column. You can sort of see it there. There's one on each side. I think it's actually what's supporting everything at this point, so I'm going to try removing them. I'm guessing that the steering column is going to drop after I do so. In case you're curious on the size, it's a 13mm, which is I think the one that I found for free in the car. But because there's studs sticking out, you're going to need a 13mm deep wall socket, which 2 seconds later I have right here in my hand. Hot nuts. Hot nuts. Okay, so 2 things. I'm getting to the frustrated part of this job, and 2, the dash was already broken because of the airbag going off on the passenger side. So that sort of ripped itself apart. All right. Oh, there's more bolts I don't see. Of course. That means there's probably more on this side too. All the way in the back. Oh, and they made them a different size. Of course. Why would I think anything different? You're probably starting to see a pattern for these projects. Okay, so back underneath, I'm now going to remove the 2 connectors that you can probably see there. There's a gray one and a black one. There's also 2 more bolts further down the line. Technically 2 more nuts that are coming off of studs. You need to remove those. Yeah, just catching my breath. But next I'm going to remove those 2 connectors. I want to put them back on after I get this thing down. I don't want to forget where they go. Let's time jump 15 minutes forward now. Basically, it was a lot of large connectors holding the steering column up. Make sure to unplug those. Literally one is held in by a bolt, so don't miss that one. Not the proper tools, but it gets the job done. Okay, so my rage level has hit its peak. My hands are shaking pretty bad. It's mostly all connectors and wires now. Every time I go to pull it out a little bit further, I find another, cable tie or tie wrap or plastic connector that's holding in another electronic component. So instead of destroying the car any further, I'm going to save this next part for when I'm refreshed tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching this episode of $1,000 Car Guy. Look forward to the next one. See you there.